I think people need to remember the only way out is through. You know, my entire life, I have just used my own 2 feet to get from one day to the next. And I always say to people, in your darkest moments of despair, you just have to make it to the next day. And with light comes renewed purpose. With every day I breathe, I hope. And I, of course, being diagnosed with cancer at 26 and facing my own death and going through that battle, so you might call it, for almost 10 years. Obviously, that is where I developed that from. Everyone has a story. Everyone has something. And people don't ever need to compare, their cross that they bear, right? So people are like, oh, I don't know that I could survive that. You don't know it only because you haven't faced it. And trust me, when you face it, you do not need to be brave or courageous. Like, you literally don't have a choice. You either can bury your head in the sand and die, or choose to do whatever's possible to live to see another day. And it applies in all aspects of life.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, welcome. I know we were just talking a little bit about the hurricanes and what happened with you and the whole situation with your house, and the house is sitting, and what's going on with Los Angeles and the fires there. And I guess you just got your roof redone, right? And we're talking about your internet too, and they just put the new poles up. But thank God you're okay and you're with us today.
2024 was the most intense year of my entire life. And I've been through a lot. So 2024 was, people will think I'm going to say that getting cancer was the worst, but last year was actually the worst year of my life.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow.
And I'm here.
Yeah, and just to give our viewers and listeners some context, so it's morning for us here. It's a Thursday, the 30th of January, almost done with the first month of 2025. And I know it's about 12 o'clock for you, 2 hours ahead. You're in Florida. Beth is in real estate, and you're our second real estate professional on the new Liftoff Experience podcast, as we've almost hit 500 episodes on Real Estate First Tech. And I like this because you can kind of put your hair down and have more of a conversation, not go so deep in, like we talked before we got on air, the whole technology can kind of get dry, and business talking can get a little dry. But the fact that you've used your debt, over 200,000, cancer, and some of these trials and really just times of distress to really help you fuel your fire for success. And I love that, successful real estate professional, building a team, coaching. You have a large portfolio of investments now. Talk about turning over a negative to bring it to a positive. But let's get a little bit into, so what were some things that came up for 2024 that made it one of the hardest years for you?
It's so wild that it almost sounds indescribable, because I, as an investment specialist, I'm designed to flourish regardless of market conditions. So a market can soften, no matter what cycle, where we are in a cycle, my business is going to flourish. So I'm always crushing. And so, as you know, 2024, now that we can look back in retrospect, 71% of agents didn't even sell one single house, only 2% sold 11, 20. So I came out of the gates in January of 2024 swinging the way that I absolutely normally would. Crushing it in business. Mm-hmm. And in February, my brother, my best friend, tragically died.
Oh my God.
So I was at a complete standstill, in the sense of, oh my God, the tragedy now hit my family. Mm-hmm. And my business really took a back seat. And the good news is that I obviously have passive income, right? Like, I have things in line that if I suddenly did need to stop working for one entire quarter, which is what happens, that I would be okay. And so I came back from my grief as we were entering quarter two, and I came out sort of swinging, right? Things were changing of what do I really value. I really was very introspective. I gave a speech at the Build conference, and it's kind of cool that there was a camera malfunction because the speech was like nothing I had ever delivered, and it was very personal. And, for the people who were there, they got pretty lucky to hear me share on such a profound level of kind of where I've been at, where I would have gone in my career if my brother hadn't died, to where I'm trending now. So I came back out of the gates swinging with a little bit of a different intention. And my production was flying again, though, exactly as everyone would expect, except that I was unwilling to continue on the path of, let me say this. I'm in my work-life balance era because I made work my life to get here. And had my brother not died, I would have continued on this trajectory where I had a financial number that I would not have stopped in production, and where I had a number of where I felt my portfolio needed to be. So there, I go through life with blinders. There was no way you were going to stop me on that path. And when Jesse died, I really had to reconsider like what is important to me. And at the time that my brother died, right before he died, I had met who is now my absolute soulmate, who I would spend the rest of my life with. So it's I'm a career-driven woman, and nothing gets in my way. And I meet this guy, and we're just going on dates, and my brother dies, and I'm like, hey, need a rain check. Like, got died, and he's like, for you. Okay. He shows up for me. I get back to work. I'm cranking through the deals, falling in love. And now I'm really finding that balance of what is important to me. And then 1-2 punch with the hurricanes. So the hurricanes hit. The first hurricane, Helene, which caused unprecedented storm surge. And in that storm, my main residence was okay, but business on the barrier islands and our beaches, which are most of my Airbnb clients, so much of my business, everyone lost everything. So I immediately went into triage mode, and we didn't have a lot of time before Milton was coming. And Milton was going to be the largest hurricane, Category 5, that we had ever seen. And when you're evacuating and you're kind of saying goodbye to your home, there's so much that goes along with that. So we get through the second hurricane. Business now is completely at a standstill. We are just in recovery mode. And I get back, we evacuated to DC. I salvaged a little bit of my birthday, found out I needed a new roof, but my house, no water got in my house. So my house was okay.
Thank God.
And we get back from the evacuation, and the next, I think about 2 or 3 days later, we got power and water. And so the very next day, I set out to triage my listings, and I was hit by a truck, and I was pulled out of my car by the EMS, and I was taken to the hospital, and my car was totaled. And I was like a weeble wobble. Like, I just kept getting punched, and then I would kind of fly back up. And so here I was now, all of quarter, 3 into 4 was either evacuating, rebuilding, or now rebuilding my life after my beloved car was totaled. 10 days later after the accident, which I should not have survived, by the way. So just my brother is really excelling in the guardian angel situation.
Yeah.
So I 10 days later, I gave a speech in front of 6,000 realtors in Miami at a conference. And people were like, we can't believe you're even here. And I was like, I can't believe it either. And I came back, and I was able to continue to kind of start cranking out some deals and set some intention. And could anything else go wrong? Sure. Then in Christmas, like about 2 weeks before Christmas, I took a fall in a restaurant. My head out the wall. So everyone was telling me to like wrap myself in bubble wrap, canceled 2024. And what I found was, first of all, I'm amazed that I still managed to personally sell 26 houses last year, which is about half of my normal solo production. But for the small amount of time I worked, so I can't even believe that happened when traditional realtors only 2% sold between 11 and 20 homes. And so to still kind of wind up in that 1.5 percentile was wild for me because I felt like, wow, this was not a failure of a year, but certainly a new year. And now that I'm back, right, like I have come out the gates swinging. January, by the second week of January, I had 4 closed. I had 6 listings. Like I am cranking through deals. I bought another house in the middle of all of this, bought another house and fixing my own house. So I got a new car, new roof, new house, just all of this stuff. And I'm back at work. And I had this conversation yesterday. I have 5 big speaking engagements this year, and I'm writing new material. And I'm thinking, like, what is the purpose that I really want to share and teach? And because I've fallen deeply in love, and now I've found this partner that I want to share my life with, and I have reprioritized my goals, both financially and as far as how much I am willing to work and how long I want to work for the rest of my days. And I've kind of recalculated some things, and here we are.
Wow. Wow. I want to say a couple liftoff moments there, from the perspective of turning some of these hardships into a positive light. You've met your life partner, and at the same time, God bless your brother, you lost him at the same time. So talk about, like, holy cow, like emotional whirlwind, not to mention the car accident, the tornado, and like a lot of individuals I feel like would maybe just curl up in a ball, get into bubble wrap, like you said, and just literally like not even want to like move because you're like, oh my God, is the house gonna fall down or something? But it speaks a lot about your character and the fact that you've been through what you've been through, even with the past. I'm sure the debt and the cancer, we can get into that as well, from the past probably also gave you a different level of awareness and a different level of maybe perseverance, if you will. And I got to say, God bless, congratulations for just getting back up, keep moving forward. And that's what this is about. And that's what we like to showcase on this show, because I think that there's so many amazing, beautiful people out there. And someone like yourself deserves to have more people know, like, hey, this is what I've gone through. And I can imagine now your perspective, even when coaching or getting on that stage 10 days after what happened, how it was, like you said, so much more profound.
Yeah, I think people need to remember the only way out is through. So,
Yes.
my entire life, I have just used my own 2 feet to get from one day to the next. And I always say to people, in your darkest moments of despair, you just have to make it to the next day. And with light comes renewed purpose. With every day I breathe, I hope. And I, of course, being diagnosed with cancer at 26 and facing my own death and going through that battle, so you might call it, for almost 10 years, obviously that is where I developed that from, right? So everyone has a story. Everyone has something, and people don't ever need to compare, their cross that they bear, right? So people are like, oh, I don't know that I can survive that. You don't know it only because you haven't faced it. And trust me, when you face it, you do not need to be brave or courageous. Like, you literally don't have a choice. You either can bury your head in the sand and die, or choose to do whatever's possible to live to see another day. And
Amen.
it applies in all aspects of life.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like if anyone out there can agrees with us, and if you're watching on YouTube, if you agree, comment below. If you're just listening to this, I think that it's so easy to get caught up, and I have this problem. I'll be honest. I compare myself and I set benchmarks. And I was having a conversation with my wife yesterday evening. I found my life partner in 2019 on Instagram, and she's the international team master. Shout out Red Venti Company and Melissa Salazar. She's at a BNI networking event right now, and we have a beautiful 6-year-old daughter. Got out of California, now we're here in Arizona outside of Scottsdale. And we were just having the conversation. And one thing that comes up for me is comparing, and also too much transactions, trying to just make relationships based off transactions and not going deeper and understanding that a relationship doesn't have to have a monetary value. A relationship can just have a value of a transfer of energy to learn, love, and serve and support and get a different perspective. And so I appreciate what you were saying just there, because it resonates with me, and I'm sure other people out there as well. And if you compare yourself to someone else that you think's better than you, are they really?
Yeah, comparison is the thief of joy. And I love what you just said, because I just wrote this in a speech that I'm writing. I just said, do you want to be a transactional agent or a transformative advisor? Right? Like,
Ooh.
I take people through transformations. It's an experience. This is not just a transaction. And I believe this is what I'm always trying to teach people about my niche of why it is so great to help people build wealth investing in real estate, because this isn't just like a one and done thing. These are clients who transact with you typically 3 times over the course of 24 months. And you get to build, you help them build their life. You give them safety. You give them just the breath, the relief, an opportunity that they can willingly say yes to.
Mm-hmm.
People, when you ask people like, why did you become a realtor? And of course, they're always like, because I just want to help people. Okay, I want to help people too, but I want to help them better.
Mm. I love that. I love that. I think, and if anyone's out there listening, and you could be a real estate professional, or you could just be someone that's a small business owner, it's so true, because I feel like from your perspective, and going through the process of for an entire quarter not being able to really do much to transact because of the hardship in your life, and because you're leveraging your past efforts now for your future successes with that, with the reoccurring revenue that you have coming in, the cash flow, those assets that you own. I think there's something to be said out there for individuals who are viewing and listening to think about what you're doing to set yourself for success, to go 10 steps ahead and have that opportunity to have something already coming, cash flow investments. But not only that, I think that I can imagine for you, you also have more literacy from the perspective of financial literacy for your clients. And if you are an agent out there working with buyers and sellers and you're just trying to go through the transaction, what I'm seeing, and I'm sure you can elaborate to this, Beth, is I'm seeing more like life insurance and other opportunities to pull out equity if you're going to buy a second home, short-term Airbnb house hacking, ADUs in the backyard. I'm seeing agents are now starting to educate buyers and sellers more with financial literacy and asking the questions: where do you see yourself for the next 5, 10, 15 years outside of just owning one home for 30 years? And then if you're a family and you want to buy a bigger home, okay, now you're going to upsize. Like, that's going to be inevitable. If you have one kid, you're going to have 2 or 3 or whatever the case may be for a younger couple. So what's your approach when it comes to financial literacy, helping, I can imagine this ties in perfectly, helping better your customers?
Yeah. Well, listen, it's certainly easier to sell a cookie cutter home to a first time buyer and post a pretty little picture on your pretty little Instagram. And I hope that you thoroughly enjoy that buyer that is going to transact once every 7 to 9 years with you. The harder skill set would be to offer that buyer an opportunity to purchase their first home as a value add, true starter home that we can use sort of this BRRRR method, where we're going to put in sweat equity. We're going to sacrifice, because we're not going to have the prettiest house and we're not going to want to have all of our friends over. But you know what? We're young and we can do this now. So we're going to start with that BRRRR strategy. And then we're going to be able to have multiple exit strategies, whether we then rent that house out and then use that rental income to offset DTI for the purchase of the next one, or we believe where the market is trending, we'll be able to sell for a much larger profit. Or maybe you've now renovated this house and you really like it. So we're going to do a refi. So when rates come down in about 4 years, we'll refi you out. We're going to take that money and we're going to use a DSCR loan. So don't worry about your income. The house is going to qualify for the loan, and we're going to buy you house number 2. And that's going to be a house that you're never going to live in. It's always going to be an investment property, and we're going to get tax benefits and depreciation, and we're going to get write-offs, and we're going to have tenants who pay for our mortgage. We're going to get a free house where the tenants are paying the bills, and we're just clocking that equity so that in 30 years, that asset is free and clear. And then you can decide, do I need the $500,000 or $700,000 that it's worth? Or do I want to live off the cash flow? Do I want to sell and 1031 and defer those taxes and sell more properties? People always think that real estate investors, like that's their full-time job. Like my real estate investors are physicians, realtors, make up 40% of my clients, and they're my friends because they hear me speaking about this nonstop on social media. And then they'll call me and be like, you know what, my grandma died and I just inherited $100,000. What should I do? And I'm like, great, let me show you how to make that money, make money for you. And if I can show you how to buy a house that you don't need your income to qualify for. Now, you're going to need a 25% down payment. You're going to need a FICO score that's over 670. But if I can show you that, and I can get you a house that's going to be about 90% passive, you're not going to really have to do too much. So I'm going to help you find that management team for it. What would stop you from saying yes to that opportunity? So
I love that.
Yeah, so that's the thing. With a first-time buyer, are there going to be some measure of first-time buyers who literally have this mindset like they're shopping for their forever home? Sure. But I am simply here to offer an opportunity. It might not be for you, but, right, we take that right from Phil M. Jones, exactly what to say, my favorite book. It might not be for you, but if I could show you how to buy a house a little bit more smart, a starter house that we can put value into, and I can show you how to use the housing market as a vehicle to build the wealth that will carry you into retirement, or God forbid, your brother dies, or you have a hurricane, or you get cancer, or your spouse loses their job, or your parent is ill and needs treatment in an Alzheimer's facility. You can use this additional income from one extra house to carry you and keep you safe. People think you have to scale to 1 million doors. I found a guru on YouTube and they said leverage and scale. Bullshit. Good doors, a few good doors. I'll throw it out there. 3 of my properties right now, 3 single family houses. If I were to pay all 3 of these houses completely off right now, I would make net $13,000 a month in rent. Okay.
Wow.
So if you are to tell me that, and I have a day job, right? So I would be able to, and by the way, if I had to live off of that, I 100% could. Like, there's no doubt. It's like 130 grand. I know I could live off that. So you have to know your numbers. And so I wish people understood the value of just one additional property can change your life, and 3 to 5 additional properties are all you need to like retire into the future pretty early.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. What do you think? I want to go deeper in the psychology side of things, because you've met so many individuals. You obviously have this conversation quite a bit. What's the percentage of individuals that say, sign me up, I'm on board, to the percentage of people that say, like, I don't know, let me think about it? And the ones that say, I don't know, let me think about it, what do you think holds them back the most?
Fear. So definitely fear. When people buy income properties, what you see, because typically the down payment is higher. It's almost always, unless we're doing like creative finance, unless you're a youngster who's house hacking, and these are my favorite clients, and then you can put down a small amount. Typically on an income property, you're putting down 20 to 25%. So it's a large amount of money. And what I have found, because I've helped people acquire over 300 doors, and so I've been doing this for a long time. And what I've found is people get scared when they see this large chunk of change coming out of their bank accounts. Like, we like to pull up our bank accounts and look at the money that's in there because somehow that makes us feel safe. But that money is losing 15% per year. And so I have to help them get into the mindset that we're just transferring it into an asset. So the difference is that the money in the bank you can get out in 2 seconds. But by the way, if you have money in a house, number one, creditors love you because you now have something that you can use as collateral. So you'll have more credit cards. You can get money. You can take out personal loans. If you ever needed to do a quick cash out refi on an income property, there's even HELOCs you can do in as little as 5 days. So I don't want people to ever think like, oh, my money's just completely tied up. They're also afraid to make the wrong investment. Real estate investments, when you make a mistake, can make you broke quickly. So you have to know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, you have to partner with somebody who does. And that in and of itself is a scary course of action, right? I resurrect deals. My clients call me when they need to be saved on a lot of things. They get into bad partnerships with JVs, sub-twos, flippers, and they call me. And the first thing they do is I scold them because they bought this property without coming to me. And they were like, I didn't want to bother you. I don't care that I'm not getting commission. I would have told you, don't ever buy this deal. Like, I would have told you, you don't have the right JV agreement. And so then I wanted to get them out at a loss. And I had to talk them through, what the loss will look like and how they need to talk to their CPA. But so everything is just really about fear-based. They're afraid that they've worked so hard to save this money. If I spend it in the wrong way, I'm going to be screwed. I say, but what if it works? What if I show you how to spend it? And I obviously have real examples that I can clearly back it all up with. People are like, oh, I'm waiting for interest rates to drop. A house I bought so the house, I just saw on Instagram, I put it under contract 2 years ago. I closed on it February 28th. What's 2 years ago? 2022, right? Okay. So I closed on it 2 years ago. I got the house. It was it was more expensive than that, but I negotiated it down to $275. 10% down. Obviously I got to use my commissions, for closing costs. I had to do some work to the house. So I was all into that deal for $93,000 smackaroos. Okay.
Wow.
I was afraid because I remember I took my savings account down to like below $10,000 after spending the 93K. And that house, which is about to be 2 years old, has netted me I've netted around $85,000 in 2 years from that house.
Wow.
I never paid a bill, right? The house pays for itself, pays for the operating expenses. And I have about $130,000 in equity that I could leverage if I needed to purchase another home.
Wow.
And the interest rate, this is what I meant to get at. The interest rate was 6.696. So and I live in Florida where insurance is expensive, taxes are high. So if you can get a deal that pencils and cash flows, like, there's no reason that you should be saying no. If the math makes math sense, like dollars and cents, you buy the house.
Yes. 100%. I love that. I'm actually someone that you would like then, because my wife and I house hack. We have a 6-bedroom house here. And so we have one which is going to be just rented to Julia. She helps us watch our house. We have a couple cats. We do a lot of traveling. And our team our sponsors, Liftoff Agent, and shout out to them. And so our team's in the Philippines, and so we go every year on an annual basis. And so she watches the house, what have you, and then we have a travel trailer in the side yard because we like to go out and go camping and travel. But we did a little septic, and so that makes income. And then we also have a room that we Airbnb inside the house. But then we thought we would get smart and use her retirement when we retired her from teaching for 16 years to start doing fix and flip. And so for the viewers and listeners out there, this is where it gets kind of dicey. And I've been a little under stress, just being 100% transparent. And 55 plus, a lot of snowbirds out here. So we have 2 mobile homes on the market currently. We're in contract with one of them finally, thank God. That's a little bit of a side story. There's some trust stuff that has to happen and income verification stuff on that one. But long story short, now we're like, oh great, now we have to pay the lot rent. And so with paying the lot rent monthly and these things sitting, we owe them all cash, and we have to pay the lot rent to hold on to this $30,000 sitting, because basically the market tanked and it's buyer's market. So thank God for the Airbnbs to help kind of offset the cost, but still it doesn't always happen. And thank God that I have a decent salary with Liftoff Agent, which then also helps. But yeah, it can get really stressful and dicey sometimes.
And this is the thing. This is why you don't leverage and overscale too quickly. You have to understand your financial limitations. You need to understand your risk tolerance, right? I am very risk averse and very conservative, and my clients appreciate that. So there's a lot of people I just simply don't work with because we don't align, and that's okay. We just have different theories. And then like there's a guy who came to me the other day. He deployed $3 million in the last 3 years. Guy's losing 20 grand a month. And he has a good 6-figure paying job, but like that's what's barely keeping his main house afloat because he's even leveraged that. So what he failed to do was have any boundaries for himself. He overscaled, over leveraged, partnered with people he did not research. He tried to do it too quickly. It almost reminds me of somebody with a gambling addiction where they go in, they're going to like win big. So this guy kept getting into deals thinking this is going to be the deal that saves me from XYZ. That is not how this works. And just to your point, I have clients who have, diverse portfolios because that's what I preach. And you can imagine I have 2 clients that each, 3 of them, they each have between like 5 to 10 houses a piece. And for all 3 of them, 2 of their properties were beach Airbnbs that had been completely demolished by the hurricanes.
Wow.
So, and ours are really high performing assets because we just know how to do it better. And so to lose all of that revenue, and then when you run into some problems in flips, right? Anytime we're doing a flip or a wholesale, those are short-term gains. Those are a means to an end. A short-term gain will not build you long-term wealth. So you have to understand that it's just a means to an end. And the thing about flips is like the timeline has to be compressed, and you get that with experience. If you have to extend your carrying costs and then you're not selling these mobiles, right? And now this is where you start to be like, holy shit, now we've got to tap into our reserves. We might have to tap into our credit cards. And that's when you have to revisit the goals and the boundaries and create new rules. And you also have to tighten the budget everywhere else in your life. No more Uber Eats, no going out, date nights need to be in, be creative, because you cannot overspend. And you also may have to go back to hustling into like a production or a side hustle. You have to be able to secure yourself financially. And so it does happen. Any successful investor that I know, markets are cycles. And so is their market. It's like whether you're in stocks, crypto, real estate, what goes up must come down. It just goes around and around. You have to stay in it long enough to bear the entire cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of fruitful benefits to real estate. The biggest, of course, being taxes. And if you do take a loss, you will be able to write it off. And, the thing about real estate that really differs from stocks and everything, it's like the bank doesn't lend you money to buy stocks. The bank lends you money. Like, isn't that wild? The bank will lend you the money to buy the real estate and you get to make almost all the returns. Like obviously hard money, personal money when we're doing flips. The stakes are a lot higher because these guys are taking on the risk.
Yeah.
And so what you'll learn is if you become experienced in flipping and that becomes your niche, you'll then realize quickly, you'll either get to the end of your career and be like, holy shit, we flipped 100 houses. Had we only held on to 10 of them, life would be great. Or you'll flip, 40, 50 houses and you'll realize I don't need to flip. I need to be the bank for the other flippers. And you'll become the bank. And that's where the big money is at.
Yeah, I love that for sure. I think for viewers and listeners out there, take best route. Be more conservative, okay? Don't get too hasty. Luckily, we didn't leverage all of our equity in the house, thank God. We didn't leverage for a little bit of credit cards, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and thank God our silver lining was my wife and I needed to get more clear, and we're very A-type personality types, and so we like to keep things separate. Our LLC was the first thing ever together, and now we're coming together even more, thank God, because of this. And she is more conservative. I am a little bit more like, let's go for it. But you live and learn, and I agree. I love the idea. That's what our goal is moving forward, is just making sure it's cash flow, and just depreciating assets. So long term, have it rented, do what you got to do. And so, yeah, we learned the hard way, but yeah, definitely conservative, less stressful.
Also, the thing is, everyone always talks about cash flow, but to me, like, that should not really be the most important part, because it should be the real estate investing is not a short-term play. It is a long-term play, people. We are looking at 5, 9, 20, 30 years, okay? So number one, how old are you, right? This is where we need to start, because your age is going to help determine the strategy you need to use, period.
Yeah.
So I love my clients in their 20s and 30s, because those are my kids that are house hacking. And like this one client of mine, this kid is 34. We're about to now buy his 5th house. This kid has a 7-figure net worth. I'm so proud of what he does. And he's trusted me. And I have another young one who's like 22. And I was like, I'll retour you at 40. He got through one house with an ADU, and then house hacked in the sense where he monetized on all the other rooms. He lives in one, rented all the others, Airbnb the ADU. Then we bought him his first pad split. And then I was like so pumped to keep going, right? Because he had not touched the equity from house number one. And then he calls me and he's just like, I bought a boat. I quit my job. So like, this is the thing. You don't touch the cash flow or live off the cash flow until you get to like multiple houses where the cash flow, like if you have to use the cash flow for your life, you're doing it wrong. Sit in like all of my accounts. I have an account for every single house, right? So it's very easy to then, for your CPA, it's very easy to then look at the cash flow. It's very easy to then see where your reserves are. And if you needed to borrow against that account, you should keep records. And when you get to year one, I don't believe you should touch any money. At year 2, you then might make a decision like, okay, that pad split house that I bought 2 years ago, I know that house is going to need a new roof before I sell it. It's just dimensional shingle. It was 15 years old when I got it. And in Florida, I couldn't resell it unless I changed it. That's our insurance rules. Yeah. So even though it'll last me another like 5-10 years, I know that I need to budget $17,000 to change out that roof. So the first year I net 19 grand. I didn't touch that money because in my mind I was like, hey, that's the roof money. Or I could simplify and take out, $3 grand a year every year in reserves. But just why not just leave it in that account and not count it and know that I have the roof reserves in there, and that's just done. Like. I'm just way more meticulous in how I plan for the maintenance, the big ticket items, HVACs, water heaters are not that expensive, windows. I'm really meticulous for how I plan for them. There's just no surprises for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. That's actually super smart and makes a whole lot of sense. Definitely don't quit your job, don't buy a boat, but definitely save the cash. It makes sense. I mean, I love the contrast. It definitely makes a lot of sense just to have it to the side, and then that can pay for any type of cost with the house. I love the fact that you can borrow against the house. I think that's a really smart idea. And after what we've done on our side, gave us a lot of different perspectives, and so I love that perspective. And going deeper into like, I'm curious about the past and like your parents and your siblings and your upbringing, like how did you even evolve into, I can imagine it stems maybe from being in debt and what have you, but like is anyone in real estate in your family or entrepreneurs? Are you like the first? Like how was your upbringing and how was that to get to where you are now?
It's so interesting because everything we learn about finances and financial literacy typically comes from our parents. So we are pigeonholed to what they know until we get old enough to read books and, maybe understand things. So I grew up very affluent in Long Island, New York. And, you know, all four of us kids, we were just, our parents were extremely tough on us, and we were expected to be the best no matter what we did. I was a prodigy musician, which is a whole other start of my story, but we were all, you had to get great grades, and we had a million extracurricular activities, and we were very well-rounded children. My parents divorced when we were very young. That certainly shaped my life. We went from being, you don't know what you don't know. Like, I didn't understand how wealthy we were. And then, of course, when my parents divorced, I felt like we didn't have anything. When I look back in retrospect, I had a pretty blessed life. And what I was never taught was real estate investing.
Mm.
I was in the stock market at the age of 10 or 12. And the reason is because real estate in New York was not something that you could buy. It was just way too expensive. And, I wouldn't say my father is in real estate. My father has built over 20 million square feet of the most prestigious commercial buildings in the history of our life. And he's brilliant. But he knew what he knew. And we did, have a very strong relationship for the first 30 years of my life. And I just grew up with this mentality of like both of my parents, I love them both. But they both equally messed me up in terms of my understanding of money, of finances. I felt like I wasn't worthy of my father's love if I wasn't successful and if I didn't make a lot of money. And I felt that my mother didn't teach me about money other than just that I could always spend it and somehow it would grow back on a tree. So that was tough, but we always had to work. So, I had my first job from the time I was 15, and I definitely understood money, balancing a checkbook. I had my first credit card at 16 or 17, always had to work. Like, even though we came from a great upbringing, I had to use money from like my bat mitzvah to buy a car. I had to work to pay for the money for the insurance. So I always understood that. And then I lost everything in the stock market. So by the time I was like 21, I lost over 100,000 in the stock
Wow.
market. And I was devastated, but I was working. Like, I was really successful. At 25, I'm sure most people are familiar with the shoe store, Aldo, still a
Yeah.
Okay, so at 25, I ran all of their New York City stores, like their flagships, Soho, Greenwich Village. I had an amazing life. I made a ton of money. And then at 26, living what I thought was my best life ever, then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was just like a punch because I was the healthiest person ever. And that's where I had to stop working. That's where my medical bills, exceeded $1 million. That's where everything just sort of like, there were a lot of times after I survived that I said it would have been cheaper to die.
Wow.
The financial stress, like people who knew me during the cancer years, I had 11 surgeries. My longest surgery was 17 hours. I changed the law. I fought the FDA. I started an organization that grew to educate women in 70 countries about breast reconstruction. I was the first to appear topless in major national magazines, Allure, Self. This is why we see breast cancer issues to this day, because I fought and changed the laws in 2006.
Wow.
So I buried 50 friends to the disease. I spoke on all these stages, raising money, raising awareness. And so I had this chip on my shoulder. Like, although I was happy I survived, I was incredibly angry because I couldn't believe I beat cancer to exist in such financial hardship and to feel like I just didn't even understand, like, why did I survive? And that is when I found real estate. And that is when I'm a little lucky in my life. I don't know how, but I feel like I'm always manifesting opportunity. And I fell into an opportunity where I was introduced to an asset manager of a bank. And I was in Baltimore. Johns Hopkins is my alum. And I went to Baltimore after I was done with the whole cancer thing in New York. I go back to Baltimore, get my real estate license, and I'm introduced to the asset manager of a bank. And he's like, all right, I'm going to give you a shot selling some of our foreclosures in the years 2011. I had to go into the west side of Baltimore. I am a white Jewish girl, and I'm rolling into the west side of Baltimore thinking, all right, I might get shot. Like, this could certainly be the end of my life.
Yeah.
Pulling up into these blocks in my black sports car with like a Louis Vuitton bag and high-heeled boots, badass bitch. And these blocks are boarded up, and I am tasked with selling these shells, these $40,000 to $50,000 shells. And so step one was I had to win over the people in the community. So I went in no fear. And I got out of my car and I went to every stoop and talked to every person that I could. And I said, listen, like, I'm not the police. I'm not the man trying to like take you out of this neighborhood. I didn't even use the word developers or flippers back then. I was like, I'm trying to find some guys to buy these properties, to build them back up so they're affordable enough that we can then use grants for you guys to stay in this neighborhood, to rent in this neighborhood. And I really had to educate them. And I really said, I was like, what do you think? You think one builder's going to come in and build something nice and suddenly my friends are going to start buying here? I said, that's not how this is going to go. I was like, so I need you to help me help you, because if you don't, all the rest of these houses are going to be boarded up, and these will row houses, and one of them would catch fire, and then they'd all catch fire. And then where to go? And it was either going to work or it wasn't. And it worked. And so I sold these $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 shells, and they turned into the bank giving me $200,000 listings, $500,000 listings, $1 million listings. And that is how I built the career. And I had the flippers coming to me saying, Beth, show us your shadow inventory. And I said, I will show you the shadow inventory if you give me the exclusive right to list everything you flip. I become your agent. And they would sign. I didn't even know what I was doing. I would call my dad and be like, can you write me a contract so that I can get this? And he would draft this, here's a legal document, send it over to me. And I would just sound like I knew what I was doing, and I didn't. And that's how it started. And then the bank ended, real REOs kind of went away, and the market was shifting. And so then I was like, how am I going to find these flippers, the houses? So I started door knocking in Baltimore, which is insane. I found this neighborhood that I felt pretty safe in, and I door knocked, and believe it or not, I didn't really even know that much about like making quick cash offers, but like I knew that my flippers had cash. And so I was just like, listen, you're in trouble. I could tell you're underwater. The property has a lot of deferred maintenance. Would you be open to having a cash offer? We'll be flexible. We'll help you if you're a hoarder. We'll get rid of your stuff. We'll let you stay here for a month or two, whatever you need. We'll help you find a new place. And it worked. And then my goal became to get all four sides. So I had the door knock. So I sold the house to my flipper. They bought it. Now I'm going to have the exclusive right to list. And because I knew the listing that was going to be flipped, I was now on the hunt for the buyer. And I was able to do all four sides. I did obviously three sides successfully a lot, but I was able to do all four sides a handful of times. And that was this great feeling. And then I left Baltimore. A couple of my friends were murdered. It's pretty dangerous. I moved the business to Florida, thinking, no, I've sold real estate for 7 years. Like I could do this in a new market. What's up? And that first year in Florida was really, really hard. I thought I was going to break into the luxury market. I was wrong. And I had to take it back to my roots. And I realized, like, I know how to work with investors. I know how to present opportunity. If you have that, you don't need the client. If you have the opportunity, you do not need the client. If you present an opportunity and it's good enough, someone's going to step up and say yes. And I promise you, they have money. And so I studied the MLS. I dove into Airbnb in 2017, 2018, the best time to get in. There was no air DNA. I'm running long form math. I'm penciling. I'm learning the regulations. Like I'm on foot patrol. MLS is my Bible. And then I started making the calls back to Baltimore, New York. And I said, I found something. I think you should buy it. And I presented the opportunity. And when one person said yes, and they were successful, they brought me a few of their friends who said yes. In 2021, I had 14 investors transact 41 times.
Wow. That's amazing. Dang, you have a freaking like a movie for a life, I'll tell you that much. And I gotta say, like, from the perspective of your parents being hard on you and always expecting excellence, I could see that how it's transformed into your life as far as you expect excellence. And I think that the power of manifestation and what you believe you're worth is what you'll receive. And I feel like no matter what, even though you had the trial and trump with the cancer situation, saying that it would have been cheaper to die than live, you gave back to so many women out there and made a mark. And then you expected excellence. So then you found real estate and went in this direction, and you failed forward. And that's, I think, a lot to just you as a person. And I think anyone who's out there listening, like entrepreneurship, like that's what it is. Like you don't always have to have the answers. You just got to have the tenacity and have the want and the why and the will. And you just go for it. Like, hey, Dad, I need a contract. And your dad writes the contract, does everything. Like, that is amazing. The fact that you did what you've done and you are where you are, like, it's like, you need to, like, I don't know, you need a whole, I know you also have a book and I haven't read it yet. And I feel like you need to have like just a book in general, like your autobiography of your life, just because it's so interesting. I can imagine even just, and this is just feedback personally, like not even tooting horns here. Like, it's so dynamic with so much contrast, with so many like back and forth, but showing that you can always prevail over things. Like I could see a movie to inspire millions, because there's so many different relatable stories here for someone to pick just one and be like, okay, all right, Beth did that thing and she could do it, I could do it, So I gotta say that congratulations, man. This has been freaking awesome, just listening to your story, and just, I don't know, a couple things came up for me.
I appreciate it. I think life is a series of rough drafts.
Yeah.
And I love writing. I love that I get to write my own story. And it's very interesting to see who is going to make a cameo appearance in the storybook of my life. What I think, I've evolved so much. I'm 47 years old, and this is the best age of my life. This is where I wish I could slow it down, because I know I have my health and have got money. So those are the two most fun things to have. And now it really does start going so fast, and you're on the backside of your life, and you, of course, start asking yourself, like, what do I want more of? And the answer for me this year is not more money. I want more peace.
Ooh.
And I want people out there to know, like, I'm in my work-life balance era because I did work my entire life to get here. I'm not saying that's smart, but I think all these like young Gen Z kids who are like, work-life balance, like I need to take care of myself. Like, no, it's about sacrifice. There were days that like I needed commitment. I realized that if I went out with my friends and like partied or whatever, and then I missed a day of work, it wasn't just the opportunities I missed while I was hungover and the money I spent being a big player going out. It was the momentum. We lose 10% of momentum every day we don't take action.
Yeah.
So a quick way for me to change that was I made a commitment to work every single day. Now, I want people to hear this because it really did work for me. So I worked every single day for 61 days in a row. And while a lot of those days were these 12, 14-hour days, some of them were 2 to 4 hour days. And I made a ridiculous amount of money because you don't take your eye off the ball, off the prize. You don't take your foot off the gas. Like, just think about it from that perspective as a car. Even if I was, but when I stop working and I hit the brakes and I turn the car off for a day, think of how far behind I am than the person who never stopped moving. Some days I was accelerating with vigor, but some days I was just kind of, but I'm always moving it. I'm not saying that that's right for everyone, but for me personally, the focus I was able to get by committing to work every day, and then the fact that I was able to say to myself, during my working hours, I need to maximize that time. No distractions, no phone, full concentration. And I need to get the most out of my working hours. And I got to tell you guys, all the sacrifice, all the times I cried, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the times I was broke and not broke, broke and not broke, all the times I rolled the roller coaster, I never quit. I never got off. I got a little banged up sometimes, but it was worth it because now, as I'm nearing my golden years, and listen, I think from 50 to 65, I'm still going to be crushing it, right? But there's going to come a time where I don't want to work anymore. And I really want to just be able to sit back and feel like I'm safe and secure financially. And so to everyone out there, I say, nobody cares. Work harder. Like, no one cares. Nobody cares. Like, you have to work harder. You have to grind harder. Being an entrepreneur, being a 1099, it means that you are actually in control of the outcome. Knowledge plus action equals outcome. So when you're a new agent and you have no knowledge, but you certainly have a lot of action and you're super eager, your outcome is limited, right? And when you're like middle of the rung, and this could be in flipping, you can apply this anywhere. When you've got more knowledge and then you take consistent action, what do we see? We see outcomes that are measurable and that are growing. And then you gain more knowledge, time on task and experience, and you make a commitment to take massive action, and that equals an insane outcome.
I love that. No, it's so true. It's so true. And the thing that I think that is great in 2025 is the power of technology and the fact that you can leverage technology to amplify that momentum, whether that's video, whether that's podcasts, whether that's books or audiobooks and websites and YouTube. And so there's so many things you could do now where we have Adam Hancock, for example, if we talk about like real estate, he was on Real Estate First Technology. The guy made $500 million off of YouTube passively prospecting. Not picking up a call, not transacting, only building a team, and literally just connecting the dots with relationships. So it's amazing how, even if you were to like take off a little bit of the gas, like as you said, some days could be like 2-3 hours, other days could be 16. Well, when evergreen content, social media, SEO, ads, there's so many things that will keep that momentum going, where I feel like a lot of these younger millennial Gen Zs, you're seeing them. I mean, they're making quick cash, big money, crypto, everything is shifting so quick. And it's just like, holy cow. Like there's this, like, I don't know if you know that guy who's like interviewing people on the streets about like, how'd you become successful? And like the kid he's like 22. He went from like 30,000 a month to 600,000 a month. It's like, what? Technology and interviewing other entrepreneurs and just regurgitating success tips. It's just amazing how the construct has shifted so quick. I can imagine, and I'm sure you've seen the evolution over the years too.
But that culture of instant gratification, the Amazon culture, the same time, right? That is, what is the long-term success rate, and what is the percentage of the overall totality of that generation that is going to hit that level of success and be able to maintain it? But like leveraging technology. So I provide my clients with like a portfolio review. And a lot of them, even if they only have one asset, a lot of them don't want to like take advantage of that service. And for me, it's like I want to help them maximize their revenue. And so just before we got on this call, I had AI build me a Google form because I was like going to do a job form, and I was like, so I had AI build me a Google form. I gave it the questions that I want, and it was about your pad split performance for 2024. And I gave it all the questions and what I wanted the answers, if it was multiple choice, a scale, blah, blah, blah. And AI just created the whole Google form for me and like gave me the link. And then AI was like, do you need me to help you set up how to make sure you're getting the email responses? Like I would, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not using GPT. Like, yeah, you know, it's so much less thinking. I'm an extremely talented and gifted writer. It's always been my passion in life. I've been writing since a very little girl. But even for me, what I'll do is I'll feed in chapters of my books. I feed speeches into AI, and then I ask it to define my writing style and define my speaking style. And then I say, utilizing my writing and speaking style, how would you adjust this? And then I'll feed it something else. And yeah, so it's all about making it work for you the best way you need it to for your life.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Yeah, we were doing an audit on one of our YouTube channels on the Lift Off Agent side, sponsors the show, and I was going through the analytics, and now there's a whole AI section on the back end, and they'll look at basically the videos you've been putting out there, and you can also select the category specific, and we do a lot of educational type content for real estate professionals, and so we put it all in there, and it's like, all right, here you go. Here's a thumbnail, here's the copy, here's the write-up, this is what you need to say. I'm just like, it's amazing how much more efficient we can be, and also how much more prompt we could be, and then how much more articulation we can have with the writing. Because for me, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, tubes in my ears, reading, writing, not my forte, outside of speaking or getting on stages or podcasting. So I'm very grateful for ChatGPT, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. For sure. I think one of the things that I still really love, in the whole realm of, is AI going to take over? And for me, no way, because AI is still an algorithmically and informational based system. So what AI doesn't have that a local realtor does is this hyper local knowledge of, like, AI might be able to look at comps and look at an algorithm, but I know that this house on this block is not going to sell for what the comps say it should, because I have a vantage point to this block where there's a motel, where there's prostitutes. Like, there are these things that, as a hyper local realtor. Also, algorithm doesn't understand motivation. So when you are working with a buyer, seller, or investor, it is very personal. The market is fine, but motivation determines so much of what we're going to do. Are you motivated? Do we need to price it to sell immediately? Like, what's the motivation? And you're not going to get that from AI. And so even though people are like, oh, we can use AI in pro formas and to analyze deals and pencil deals, it's the same as like why I don't like AirDNA for Airbnbs. Like, it's the same as why I still do long form penciling. Like, me, a pen, a notebook, a calculator, and a mortgage calculator. Those are my tools, because I know the numbers better than anyone if we operate with my specific team. And like, I think that's why all my investors come to me, because they're all out of state. That 50% of them have never even seen what they purchased ever. Is that wild? Wild.
That's amazing.
Wild. And so I'm acting almost like a JV partner. I'm scouting the deals, penciling the deals, we're underwriting the deals, and then I'm bringing them to the company that is going to run the deals for them, and understanding that if they choose to self-manage or do it this way, here's my guide, and here's where the numbers are going to be different. But I'm a one-stop shop. I don't think that any type of AI is going to replace what I do.
Yeah, definitely not. I think that it enhances our performance and helps our life and makes it so we can get more work done quicker, faster within the 12 to 16 hours that we're putting in. But yeah, and plus with relationships, right? People like to talk and share stories and connect with one another, and AI is not really going to do that the same. And it was kind of funny, speaking of AI replacing my sibling-in-law and non-binary, was building I guess you could say, an artificial relationship, kind of doing some testing within ChatGPT. And it was like, it was like interesting because I'm like, all right, well, this is artificial intelligence. This isn't a human. And, yes, you can put in prompts, and yes, it could tell you like small things like, oh, good job, or whatever, because basically Sevi is my sibling's name, and Sevi was saying all these things and trying to input a bunch of information. So then, what are you doing throughout his day, and this and that and everything else, and it capped to the limit, and it was like, okay, can't go any further. So like, even to a point where he was asking it, or Sevi was asking for like pictures of like what this AI looked like, but then it got to a point where it's just like, it's a computer system. It's AI. It's artificial intelligence. It's not going anywhere else. He met his limit because he pays $20 a month or whatever, and it went nowhere. So I'm just like, yeah, AI is not replacing us
It's
at
just
all.
like it's a helper. It's a helper. And the
Yes.
thing is, we have to take all the help that we can get. When people are like, "Oh, you're a solo agent," well, no successful solo agent is solo. Like, let's be
Yeah.
clear. You have a whole support staff. You have a whole, there's showing agents, there's VA, there's marketing, there's transaction concierge. Like, there's all kinds of people. It takes a village. And then,
Yeah.
obviously, being at EXP, I have 40 plus agents in my rev share group. And so, to me, that's like as much of a team as I would want
Hmm.
to run.
Yeah.
And so, again, you need AI because we need that help. We need to just maximize our time. You could still have a real estate business if you don't use AI. The difference is I'm going to have a bigger one if I do.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. So you've done all the things, and you're now in your golden years, and you have time, freedom, passive income, your partner. What does your life look like now? How do you balance your life out, and what does day in the life look like, and how much time do you actually dedicate to work now, because you leverage so much?
It's such a wild love story. People who know us can't believe, like, they say to both of us, you've softened each other, you've just changed each other, like you've brought so much joy and happiness. Like, we know, it's so insane to be in a relationship where, like, every single day, there's not a minute that goes by where we don't remark about how grateful we are, how extraordinary and unprecedented a love story like this is. And so we both used to feel like, well, maybe we didn't have a strong enough reason to take the time away in our prior lives, and
Hmm.
our relationships. He is going through a very big moment in his own career, and it has really challenged him in the last 10 months, um, in leadership and in all facets of growth. And so it's been really exciting. He was an entrepreneur once as well, and he owned his own business. So he understands what I do. And so a day in the life when we are not traveling, because he travels often for work, I travel to speak. But when we're together, we really are incredibly present. And so we love adventuring together. We just love spending the time. And so like even last week, I had to go see preview 4 listings.
Hmm.
And then even the week before that, oh my God, one of my clients needs a rescue. And so I decided to help get a house off of his books. And the house is like literally almost 2 hours away. And Zach was like, I'll drive. Like, I just want to spend the day with you. And so I would have never been like, yeah, let me give up my Saturday to be in the car for 4 hours. And like, so he's always down for the adventure.
Oh.
We love that. His mom lives on the other coast of Florida, about 3.5 hours away. And we love when we go see her, which is as often as humanly possible, because it's just like our place where we both decompress. And,
Mm.
everyone is wanting to know when the wedding is going to be, and there's a lot of like my mom sends me texts every day with like wedding dresses, and it's just like, oh my God, stop. Of course we have plans in our head, but what we know is that we both still have at least 5 more years like in our career. where we're working because we're young and we're able, but we've had a lot of all those difficult conversations. Okay, so I think in the beginning of I did this relationship different than everything in the past because my mother died. So typically when your relationship starts and you go on a couple of dates and things are hot and heavy, like obviously you take it to a next physical level. My brother died the day before our third date.
Wow.
So I pulled the plug on any intimacy whatsoever. And then he started showing up for me as my friend. And I didn't, so we fell in love before we were ever intimate, which was, that's the stuff you see on Hallmark, like, and life. Like when people are like, I love you, but they didn't even so the fact that, people always say to you like, oh, don't rush into things. And you're thinking, you're crazy. Like, I'm young, I'm sexy. Like, what do you mean? But I swear for us, that was a defining part of our love. We had very difficult conversations in the beginning about finances, about life goals, about our family. And we are so in alignment on everything we believe, and we're best friends. He's my best buddy. And so then when you then add in all that bonus stuff, that was just like, wow. Now it's like we're an unstoppable force. We really do believe that together anything is possible. And so for us, like, we just love spending time together. And the fact that we're going to get to do this for half of our life is really exciting. And so I'm helping him. I've opened his eyes into investing in real estate. Like, even my parents now, my mom, she's like, I never understood this. And I watch your Instagram and now I understand why this is so important. She's like, I'm so proud of you that you have all these houses that you're never going to have to worry. And so that's so rewarding that I'm just teaching these people how to do this. And the fact that Zach is like, and he's had his money elsewhere, whether it's crypto, stock, a watch collection, he now understands. And so now we're making moves together so that we, like, again, being our age, we're 6 months to the day apart. And so being our age, over leveraging would not be the right move because we want to not really have to work from 65 on. That's a very young retirement. And so over leveraging wouldn't be the move because we actually want to get the houses off the books so that we could live off of the cash flow.
I love that. That's super smart. And I think that, so my wife and I, we met each other 2018 and got married 2019. And like I said earlier in the show, very much on our own pages with certain things. And so it's interesting when you meet someone after you're more established on how to mix and match and bring things together, and it's ours now, and this is how we're going to navigate this process and conversations to have. And congratulations, that's awesome. Because I think that being able to be someone's friend first is super smart instead of getting into, when you're younger, obviously it's like you think the other end, oh, intimacy, yay, so fun, and then you find out like you hate the person, they can't even be around you anymore, let alone the intimacy side. But that's super cool.
You miss the opportunity to learn how to communicate.
Yeah.
Because then, listen, being intimate is like a drug. Of course you want it, but you miss the opportunity to learn how to communicate. Like, we have definitely had hard moments, and thank God he's so kind and he's so patient. And I am learning so much about myself and my ability. Like, I'm telling you, before he came along, I never thought I could love another human being more than I loved the drive of my own success and my own life. And wow. to have somebody whose happiness is more important than any of that is remarkable. And I find that a lot of people experience that feeling as parents, right? Where their happiness, their safety is more important than anything. And so when you have that feeling, you then start to really have the fear of, oh my God, I need a plan. I need to be able to take care of this person no matter what. I need to be able to take care of our unit, our family unit. I need to take care of us if something happens. So then even I went into overdrive of, well, maybe I do need to produce more so that I could buy another house. And like, I was like, but wait. What this relationship requires is time and commitment. And like, he doesn't do social media. So for somebody who's like as social media, like obsessed as I am, that's been a really big change where when we're together, I don't go on Instagram and Facebook as much. But if you know Gogo Bethty as we do, Gogo
Yep.
is my good friend. She's my EXP sponsor. And so I've introduced Zach. We hang out with Gogo and her husband. And this is helping me leaps and bounds because he's witnessing what it's like to be around the Go-Go machine and how Dwayne is a master at pictures and video and like I'm so excited because I'm like, okay, like he thought like I was bad. And then he was like, oh my God, you don't even touch your phone. And I'm like, exactly. So
Yes.
I'm bringing him in to like Instagram. Like he has an Instagram. I think there's like 12 posts on it from like the last like 10, 15 years. So he's little by little, he's like, well, you could tag me if you want, or, you know, he's getting into it. And I love that. And I feel like, you know, what's also been interesting is I thought that true love like this didn't exist, which is so wrong because I have so many friends. Gogo and Dwayne married 20 years. Tina and Kevin Cole. I have so many friends that I'm business partners with that have the most incredible 20 plus year marriages, and they're so in love. And I just think I wasn't looking in the right places. And so if you're not achieving the things that you want in life, who are you hanging out with? If I'm hanging out at the bar with people who aren't married in long-term successful relationships, how am I going to find one of those?
Yeah.
What I needed to do was immerse myself in those people. It's the same as in business. You know, for me, the year that really changed my business was COVID. Because during COVID, I couldn't go to the bar. I couldn't go out and be social. I didn't see my social friends. And the only people that I tuned into was my partners, Jay Kinder, Al Stasic, Gogo Bethke. And I dove in, John Kitchens, like I dove in so deep. I started John Kitchens' podcast. I started watching it from episode 1.
Wow.
And then I forget the episode I was on. Been on that show a couple of times, but like I started from 1. And that's what changed my behavior. And then every morning when I was getting ready, I was listening to podcasts. I was listening to Alex Hormozy. I found the people who I resonated with and I brought them into my life in a bigger capacity. And so that's the thing. Like, I feel like if you're out there listening and you're not where you want to be, you got to take inventory. Like, who is in your life that shouldn't be there, right? Like, let go or be dragged.
I love that. That's so powerful. And yeah, influence is real. And if you're not paying attention to your surroundings and taking a mental checklist, I think sometimes it's really hard for individuals to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, okay, what do I really want? Because do they feel like they deserve it? I feel like a lot of people don't feel like they deserve it. And then if they don't feel like they deserve it, then it's just like, how are you going to tell yourself like you deserve to have an amazing relationship like you have, or success, or financial wealth and abundance, or whatever the case may be? And I'm right there with you. I love that. I love to be the light in the world that I feel like is needing to shine on people, help people in any possible way. And I love the fact that you take that mental checklist on your side. I think who's viewing and listening, like that's what you got to do. Let this, you're already an hour in this podcast. You've already invested some time here. So take that time, make that checklist, go follow Beth, go look at who Alex Hormozy is and his wife. And yeah, ask yourself what you really want. Cause that's what true success is, right, Beth? I mean, if you don't know what you want, how do you have success? How are you going to get it? How are you going to?
Yeah. If you don't have the destination, the GPS can't get you there.
Yeah.
So you have to have the end goal. And then if you do have a partner, if you do have a spouse, I remember like 2 weeks into knowing Zach, I was like, would you be open to a relationship whiteboard? Because we are both big whiteboarders, right? Like we have huge whiteboards in our offices. I was like, could we have one for our relationship? And he literally looked at me sideways. And I was like, just think about it. I was like, I'm not trying to run it like a business. He's like, well, you are. And I'm like, but I just think if we had clear goals, like quarterly, like, you know, I was like, and so I know a lot of successful couples, like on New Year's Eve, they right? They kind of review their year and they look to what they want to get out of their marriage or relationship in the year ahead. And, you know, and so I think it's really important. And he's going through this uncertain phase in his career right now. And it's challenging me to be a very supportive partner. And then I say to myself, like, well, what can I learn from this? And what is the takeaway? And the takeaway is like unwavering commitment. I'm committed to myself and I'm committed to him. And so I invite people to recommit, and you have to commit every single day. And it's okay if you fall off for a little bit, but recommit immediately the next day and get started again.
I love that. And in contrast, it gives me some things to think about, and hopefully some viewers and listeners too, because it's so easy when you find someone and you go through a lot of the things that you've gone through to a point where, like, it's kind of like for my wife and I, it's like we're checking off the boxes and not really slowing down and doing, like, we need to do more date night. We need to do more. Okay, let's put our finger on the pulse. Where are we at? What are we committed to? Like, I love the New Year's thing. What's the goal for the year? How do we want to show for each other better? And so self-reflection as far as couples are concerned, I think is huge. And, you know, we're a great couple and we're on each other, support each other, help each other, all the things, but definitely I think a whiteboard. No.
Well, I have an idea for you. I'll give you one last tidbit, especially because Valentine's Day is coming up. You said you had a 6-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you guys should do and what everybody should do is you should go to like Home Depot or wherever there's like cute, like big white mailboxes. I'm dead serious. And it has to have like the red flag on it. So you're all going to get these mailboxes and they're going to be inside the house. And the responsibility is that once a month, you have to deposit some sort of letter, whether it's of love or appreciation, into your wife's box, into your kid's box. And, you know, you raise the flag so they know there's something in there. And then when your friends catch on to this, they too can deposit letters of love, gratitude, appreciation. And on the days that you wake up and you feel like you don't matter, or that life is too hard to bear, you can open up that box and you are reminded how much you are loved. So just a little tidbit, Valentine's Day is coming up. You might want to try a love box in the house.
I love that. That's actually a super smart idea. And we're going to start like a gratitude jar. And the gratitude jar we kind of did, and then we stopped. But that's a really smart idea to have that and just have some, because, yeah, she was, my wife was always one at the beginning as we were dating, doing like for your birthday, taking sticky notes and putting sticky notes like all around the house, and you're gonna go find the notes, and it's just like appreciation, affirmations, whatever the case may be. And I'm more of the affirmations person, so 5 love languages out there, you can find out what they are and find out what yours are and your partners are. But I'm more of she's acts of service, I'm affirmations, so we're great yin and yang and challenge each other all the time to push forth with her on affirmations and me on acts of service. And so it's never ending process to make sure that we're always looking out and loving each other and serving each other so we can keep on keeping on, you know. It's a process.
Yeah, to be able to do that for a child, like, you know, like it's a good feeling that you're like, because, you know, as kids get older, like that's where it just gets so hard and challenging. Imagine like walking into the kitchen and like your red thing is up on your mailbox and you're just like, oh my God, they're like, yeah. So that's my last bit of non-real estate advice for everybody out there. Life is really hard, folks. Like, you wake up every day, you do the best you can, and to the people who love you, it's enough.
Yeah. Amen. 100%. So the one area we didn't get too into, and I'm curious, like, what's your take on like more of like the spiritual side, whether it's meditation or prayer or anything like that? Does any of that incorporate or help you get through your days or help you get through different circumstances? Sometimes, like, I know appreciation, affirmation can be spiritual, if you will. There's a spiritual aspect to, I feel like, affirmations and practicing gratitude. I know prayer can tie in also to gratitude as well when you're praying for forgiveness or whatever the case may be. But has that helped you throughout your process as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, I certainly believe in God, and I have since I was a very young child, and I've always felt very connected. And you know, there's this Jewish proverb, and it translates to, I ask not for a lighter burden, I ask for broader shoulders. And because like there's never been a time in my life, and of course there's been like a minuscule minute where I'm like, well, I may, but the real question is, why not? Right? And
Yeah.
so I definitely, and I will tell you this, like since from the moment my brother died, I have felt him in most the things that have happened, and like my good friends, they hear about this, and it's so crazy. I mean, first of all, the fact that like my roof blew off and like the sheathing held, the fact that the truck, literally, I have a tiny sports car, the truck plowed into me and I was virtually unscathed. Like, and then there are things that happen in the house. I feel him, I hear him. There's things that happen in the house that are wild all the time. So I absolutely feel like his presence, he is with me. You know, and I think that no matter what you believe in, it's the audacity of hope. It is the hope that there is a brighter tomorrow, whether you think your fate is divinely already predetermined, or if you pick it and choose it for yourself. Like I just feel I don't spend a lot of time worrying about that. I spend time just living my life, and everything else will take care of itself. But of course, I will say, like, I've definitely experienced a lot of death in my life, but since my brother died, I've never so strongly believed, like, oh snap, I think our souls really do float around as energy, and you know, maybe there is something bigger to all of this.
Right.
That's how I feel about that.
I love that. I love that. It's so true too, because sometimes you're like, did that just happen or what the heck? And it's amazing the signs you can feel and see. And yeah, guardian angels, right? I mean, you have to have some guardian angels. The things that you went through and the fact that you're still here, it's just like, wow. And you and your brother, like growing up, obviously you're very close, right? This is someone that you had talked to, it sounds like quite a bit. You guys were pretty close. Was he also in real estate? Would love to hear a little bit about him.
No, so my siblings, like we're all so different. Like my little brother is an Emmy award-winning meteorologist. So
Wow.
my older brother Jesse was a farrier. He was one of the most talented farriers. So we put shoes on horses for anyone that doesn't know what a farrier is. Yeah, it's wild. Like my stepbrother's a plastic surgeon. My stepsister's a big SEC lawyer. My half sister's getting her PhD. Like we're all very, very successful people. But my older brother and I were just so close growing up. We're very similar. And he would come to Florida a lot. And so like he came when I was in the condo, he came when I was in this house. My friends knew him. He and I were just so close. And we talked about how proud we were. Like he was an entrepreneur and he owned his business as well. And I would certainly call him crying a lot over the years. And when I really started to make it, like I started to make it in 2019, and every year since, it's just been like insanity. And he just always told me like how proud he was. And he's like, I talk about you all the time to all my clients, just how amazing you are. We never lost a moment of telling each other, you know, how much we love each other. And I don't think that makes death any harder or less, you know, like I don't, if you have a loved one that you don't have that time with, like you're not going to punish yourself for it. Like it sucks either way.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know, I miss him terribly. It'll be 1 year in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And it is just, and you know, his picture is sitting right there. I have him on my wrist. He's with me all the time. And I think that, how lucky am I that I got to spend the first half of my life with him.
Amen. That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel that family or just friends, to have someone that can speak from that perspective of like, I'm so proud of you, and to have someone you can call on and someone you can talk to. And I know there's a lot of mentors out there, right? Which is great. And I feel like from the perspective of your brother, it's just deeper than just a mentor, it feels like, you know?
Yeah, he had a very thick New York accent, and he would always be like, you'll be all right, or you'll figure it out. And he said those two lines to me so much that I hear his voice all the time being like, you'll be all right, you're all right. Like, And it's just, it's amazing that like the things that stick with us in our brains, that he really kind of drilled that into me, that, I like, and I mean, after I had my mastectomy, is that I was in the hospital for weeks. He like moved a Craftmatic adjustable bed, him and his wife, like into their bedroom. Like he was my biggest caretaker when I came.
Wow.
Like, we just like me and my siblings have been through so much because of my experience with cancer, that like
Mhm.
we're just we're a pretty tight crew, and it's life is beautiful and life is tragic, and at the end of the day, all you can do is the best that you can. And listen, like some days I succeed, but every day I try.
Yeah, you have to. You have to 100% because, at the end of the day, we talked a little bit like earlier, just about the fact that things come and go, and the things are just things, and the relationships mean so much more than just the things that we have. And it's like the accolades, the successes that you had were what you had, and where you're going, and what you're doing at this present moment. And I love what you said earlier about just being in more peace. And I think that's so powerful because I feel like, life is very stressful and it's very hard, and there's a lot of ups and lows, a lot of downs. And if you could just enjoy each moment and just be grateful for what you have and who you're with, and enjoy each moment, like there's just, I don't know, so much magic. There's so much magic in just the simplistic things instead of it being so complicated all the time, sometimes
Yeah,
it's
I
complicated.
just think people are like, I just, I think the hardest thing is that there still has to be sacrifice at some point. Like, so it
Hmm.
sucks when life gets cut off too young, too short, because
Yeah.
there is merit and truth to sacrificing a little bit when you're younger,
Yeah.
so that you can enjoy children more, or spouse more, or enjoy the end of your parents' life.
Yeah.
Like, so I just, there's some merit I wish I sacrificed more when I was younger. I wish I lived more below my means. Um, and you think like, oh, yes, I got to go on some insane adventures and do some crazy things, but like I
Hmm.
could have made smarter moves. Had I learned how to invest in real estate at 21, I could have bought properties that then would have allowed me in my 30s to take the 3 weeks in Canada to, go ice climbing and all the, like the things that I do, like I spent so much money doing that. I could have
Yeah.
paid that with cash flow had I had one investment in my 20s.
Wow. Wow. So for you, it's the opportunities to invest. You wish younger to be able to do crazier trips or take off more time and have more cash flow. That's what you.
Yeah, like, and that the younger you start, the better it is. And so, but
Hmm.
I want people to know, like, if you're 55 and you don't have savings yet for retirement and you haven't bought a property yet, it's okay. We can get you started now. And also, if you're young out there and you're like, I can't save, or like, I can't save to buy my first house, I'm a renter. Why does your first house need to be an owner occupied? Why can't it be
Hmm.
an investment property in another state? Why can't I find you something in Detroit that I know will cash flow, that you can literally buy with 70 grand cash
Wow.
and own it outright? Like, there are a lot of young people. So then of course you have young people with student debt and all these other things. They're like, I can't even save for a down payment. Well, then stop going to Starbucks, stop using Uber Eats. Like, you have to sacrifice I did this reel, God, this was 20 years ago. It was like reckless spending of, I don't know if it was like $20 a day, whatever it was. It added up to like 10 or 20 grand. Like, and
Wow.
people don't realize, like, that stupid Starbucks, which you should not be supporting that brand anyway, but like all these Netflix, all the subscriptions are just the death of people's finances. Like, you got to
Yeah.
get in control of your finances. And again, like, buy the real estate and then have fun with the stuff that comes from it.
I love that. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. I think that anyone who's listening right now, hour and a half in, this has been amazing. You should definitely think to yourself, where are you at? What are you committed to? You're worth more. Make some investments now. Take the leap of faith. I mean, you're inspiring me, Beth, to even be like, hey, maybe Detroit, and maybe my wife and I need to give you a call and talk about investment opportunities. Because I was thinking about also investing out of state too, which I think would be a great idea to have stuff that you don't really even need to see. You could purchase and then find some amazing renters and or Airbnb. I think renters probably be easier and now we have less to deal with. But yeah, definitely there's some amazing house opportunities. You can buy houses for like in some of these states for so cheap.
It's always about buying right. And if you have the person, like people come to me because this is my area of expertise, and you tell me how much money you have, and we work through what your goals are, and then we make a plan. And if you're going to buy in my market, well, it's a lot more fun because I have teams for everything, but I have realtors in other markets who built the same thing that I've built.
Yeah.
And so then you can buy in their market as well. And for me, that just means more referral business.
I love that. I love that. That's so amazing. And I love how too earlier you said like you're never too busy. So anyone who's listening, like that's not too busy. And I love the fact that you were just wanting to help. That's why you're here on the show to help, serve, support, enlighten, give. This is part of your legacy, right? This is going to be out there and people are going to see it and they're going to find you 5-10 years. You never know what technology these days, and with this being on the interwebs, it's always going to live and always be out there. And this has been awesome. And I think that there's a lot of takeaways for people to take from our episodes today. And I want to say, as we get to closing, like, is there anything that you would like to leave as far as a golden nugget and something that someone can take from today's episode so they can really be able to, I don't know, put bookends on today's show?
I was at a Real Producers event like a week or so ago, and there were 4 panelists, and I'd done deals with all of them, and they're all really big players in the scene. And this one particular guy, his name is Bill Yingling, and he's a big coach, a big mentor, has a big real estate team, and I got to transact with one of his newer agents last year in a very difficult transaction. There was foreclosures, HOA liens, all kinds of stuff. And I watched him not micromanage his agent, but really support him. And I was so impressed by the way that he taught. So at the Real Producers event the other day, I asked the question, I said, when you're coaching or mentoring someone new, or, when someone's just starting out, like, what's the best thing that you can tell them? And he looked at me like dead in the eye and he said, don't quit. And everyone else went on and they answered the questions and they talked and talked and talked. And he's just such a superb coach and mentor. And I just respected the simplicity that he just was like, don't quit. And that is all everyone really needs to take with them.
Wow. It's so true. It's so true. Just don't quit, because you never know. You never know. I remember that.
The only thing that sets me apart from the 87% of realtors who failed their first years, I didn't quit. The only thing that set me apart from the 71% of realtors who didn't sell one single house in 2024 is I didn't give up. Don't quit.
Yes, 100%. You never know, because if you quit, you could have been like that picture, like the one guy's digging all the way down, he quits and he's almost at the treasure, the gold or whatever, and then the other person's like, no, I'm going to keep on going. And I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen if you don't quit? You have success. It's like you have success. I mean, you learn a lesson, you burn out, you keep going forward. It's like at the end of the day, it's like you just keep on keeping on. I love it. But I want to encourage everyone to go check you out. Go check out Beth. Go see what she's about. Go check her on social. Go check her website out. Go check her out online. She's got a book. She can help you invest. She's taking her time out of her day to day just to be able to speak some truth to just help more people and serve more. And it's been a pleasure, Beth. I really appreciate your time today.
The pleasure's all mine. It's always good to just have these conversations. I feel like one person out there is like, all right, I'm going to do this. Like if one person is like, I'm going to do the momentum thing. Or if one person is like, oh, I'm going to get a whiteboard with my partner and write down our goals. One person is like, maybe I need to figure out how to invest in real estate instead of watching the money in my bank account. If one realtor is like, maybe I should talk to my first time buyers about how they can monetize by renting out the rooms in their house. Like if one person takes one little thing, and I guarantee there's somebody out there that just got a cancer diagnosis or is about to, you got to keep it on. It's a series of rough drafts. You're the one holding the writing instrument.
Yes, I love that, and I love that. I think for me, it's great. I just want to say like my appreciation because it's about proximity, right? And it's like you said earlier, getting in those rooms or reading those books or those podcasts, and self-reflect and look at who you want to emulate, who you want to be like. And I got to say that selfishly on my side, right? Like as we move up, I guess you could say the food chain of this real estate industry, right? Like you're up there. You've had a lot of success. The names that you dropped, if people are listening and you're not in the real estate space, because this isn't just a specific real estate focused podcast, those are some high net worth individuals, some high individuals within the EXP community that are crushing it, that are leaders, that are coaches. And so I'm always grateful to be able to slow down and have a meaningful conversation, because there's so much going on. Sometimes it's nice just to focus on just one person and one conversation and just enjoy, and also to be closer proximity to, rubbing shoulders, networking with, working, whatever, as far as we, make our mark and serve this industry. So I really appreciate your time and consideration and being on the show. And I'm glad that you gave me an opportunity, gave us an opportunity, because Beth, before we got on the air and like months back, she's like, I don't want to be challenged on those real estate versus tech. Like that's not my vibe. And then we talked and I did a little more research, because my team's the one that set this up. And I was like, I think the Liftoff Experience would be a good show for us to vibe out on. So I really appreciate you being here today.
I hope I lived up to the hype.
Of course, it was good. It was good. This is actually our very first virtual podcast on the Liftoff Experience, because our intention has been to bring people here, bring them in the hot seat, have more of like an in-person interaction, because we started the real estate versus tech during COVID. But it's cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing if y'all liked it. Like the episode, subscribe, hit the notification bell, so maybe we'll put out more virtual podcasts so we can be in more places than just here in Arizona. So we'll see. Awesome, Beth. Well, have an amazing rest of your day, and good luck with some of the rebuilding going on in your house or houses, and the rebuild around your just area and neighborhood. And God bless, and thank God that you're here, you're still kicking, and may 2025 be the best year yet.
Rise.
Amen.